Dean, which is unbelievably convenient. And joining me today for the program, these are nice. I love getting people together that have never met each other, but are friends of mine because I know that they'll instantly connect. So please welcome to the program, lawyer, advocate, the head of Normal Canada, Miss Karima Saad. Karima, nice to see you. Good to see you as always.
Thank you for having me back.
What people don't know, Chris, who joins us as well, Chris Bodden from the Big Chris Live podcast at deanblundell.com, is she just recently got out of a matter.
Yes.
Yeah. Which means
looking.
she went into some kind of case conference, whooped some ass, and walked out. That's what I'm getting from it.
I'm going to take that. I will take that. That's right.
At a girl. That's what the hair says. And what people don't, she's blazer, hair up, goes in, does the business. But what's incredible is Karima's just like all of us. She's still in her pajamas.
That was in confidence.
Not anymore.
No, we're all the same. It's comfy pants season here. Comfy pant SZN.
Yeah,
comfy pant. I wear the same comfy pants or the same pair of jeans that I wear every single day because I don't have to go anywhere, Karima. So I just wanted to ask you a quick question before we continue. Out of 7 days a week, how many do you have the blazer and the pajama, like party on the bottom and all business on top?
The blazer's only if I need to be like on camera with someone. So I would say 5 out of 7 days a week, maybe, but not 100% of the time. It's pajama bottoms, if that's the real question. Yeah.
But you also coordinated your glasses with your blazer too. Nice work.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's the little details that matter.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? It's incredible, like how these are life hacks that we've learned over the past year of being pandemicked. Like, okay, the glasses match the blazer, and I'm wearing flannel pajama bottoms. Perfect. Doesn't matter, right? I have a friend who's the CEO of like a $800 billion company. He's told me he hasn't got out of his pajamas in the last 3 months. He said like the hair looks perfect. He's got the tie on, perfect Windsor knot. He's got the like silk cut blazer, perfect laser cut blazer, but he's also wearing literally pajama bottoms and no socks. And that's how we are right now. Like it. And I wonder if it like is destroying us or if it's a good thing.
It's mullet fashion.
I'm a lot happier with it. Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Why
I'm okay with it.
You know,
call me old school.
But it's not motivational.
I'm not. No, but I haven't been.
What are you wearing? Jeans? You wearing jeans today?
Yeah, I'm wearing jeans.
Just pure on jeans. So am I.
Well, I mean, I did leave the house. I had to go to work, right? So I guess I never stopped working. I never got in. I never slipped in. I don't know the comfort of which you speak.
Yeah.
Maybe
have either of you hit the camera off in a Zoom meeting just to go to the washroom while a meeting's been going on? That's a great move too. That happens a lot.
100%. I've taken.
That's how you end up with the Jeffrey Toobin incident. I don't know. I don't know about that.
Jeffrey Toobin yeah. Also, a real weird rash on people jerking off on Zoom meetings over the past year too. Like really important people where you're like, why? How do you? A, the multitasking is too much for me to get, but B, it's just like, wait, just hang in there, man. Just hang in there until the call's done. I mean, it's not that hard.
Wasn't it a female senator in Mexico or something that took her top off on Zoom by accident? I can't remember. Like, really important people.
Yeah. Yeah, like really important people. Anyway. Yeah, it is, isn't it? We get to see everybody doing things we don't want to see them do. Speaking of which, you had an eventful weekend, Karima. I want to just share some things with you. Every weekend, if you don't follow Karima online, she's incredible. She's one of the greatest follows at Karima Rules, Caryma. You are going to anti-mask parade after anti-mask parade full of the world's dumbest individuals, sickest individuals, most carefree individuals every single weekend downtown Toronto, and this weekend was no different. Why do you keep doing that?
I mean, partly they come to me. So, you know, it part of their parade or protest goes down Spadina, although the route has changed a little bit, and now they're more in Kensington. And when they were congregating at Yonge and Dundas, like I have sort of things going on in all those areas. So that's how it initially began. And now it's sort of, I feel this compulsion almost to document what is happening. Like there's so much being recorded and put out there, but yeah, it's just so, I think 30 years from now, right, we'll look back and, you know, this is what was happening. I'm here on the streets, and that's the motivation there.
Yeah, you've captured some real winners. These people that seem to think science doesn't exist, and I'd like to play some of it for you. Tell me where this is right now as you're looking at the screen. Where are you filming? Because I understand this to not be a super affluent part of town, depending on, you know, in and where you live with these pockets. But at the same time, these people go for long periods, long stretches, walking around, coughing on things, telling everybody science doesn't exist. So what happens here? This, by the way, has to be your 15th anti-masker parade of the season.
There have been a lot.
Well done.
A lot. And so right now we're looking at Dundas and Kensington. So they're about to go down a one-way street, the wrong way down a one-way street, as someone pointed out. It's a little bit poetic, in Kensington Market.
That'd be a real shame if someone
ran into him. Yeah.
It'd be a shame.
We can't promote that. All right,
my bad.
But it would be a shame. And let me just play the video. This is, and the thing is, when Karima goes out, Chris, she doesn't like commentate. She just lets the idiocy speak for itself. Look at these guys. That's right. You're awfully close to these dirty people, Karima. Are you wearing a mask, by the way?
I'm for sure wearing a mask, yes.
I'd double bag.
Yeah, because this is like, yeah, I would too. I'd hose myself down in Purell when I was done, but you're awfully close.
It's actually like a mask neck warmer combo.
Oh, okay. I hope you have a mask underneath the mask neck warmer combo, and
yes.
And I hope you get spritzed with something when you get home. Look at this. Look at these guys. That's right. Some drums will fix everything. That's right. I got to think that most of these people, Karima, probably just are looking for something to do on a Saturday, and they've been lonely for a long period of time. Do you get that feeling from those people, or is it just general pure stupidity? And the other thing is, it's got to be hard to be that stupid.
You know, it's changed in my observation over the past few months. It was initially more celebratory. There was music, dancing, and I do think that it was people who were bored and looking to sort of be the center of attention, kind of, I don't know, get some of that partying out of their system. I'm not sure, because it wasn't really a fun party. But like more recently, like it's angry people, like very, very angry people. So and the crowds have gotten a bit smaller. And it could be that now it's more dispersed across different parts of the city. But I'm sensing sort of an anger that wasn't, maybe it was present, but it's certainly more like palpable now.
Wait, what do you mean by angry? Like, you used to go to these things and you would just see, you know, village idiots kind of clowning around, but these people seem purposeful. Is that what you're saying? Like full of pissed offness about what? About science, about being told to do something? What are they angry about?
Purposeful implies that they have some kind of objective, and I don't know that that's true across the board. I think that there's a segment of people who are like genuinely sort of lost in everything that has happened and have either gone down some conspiracy like rabbit hole, they've experienced material hardship. So there's like some realness underlying this, but then for others, it's like, I thought that I saw people who were affiliated with certain white supremacist groups, like the Soldiers of Odin. So there were so some of them are milling about, and I don't know that there's an overlap sort of in purpose with them and folks who are actually hurting, and then people who are just kind of, as you said initially, bored and like looking for something to do. So it's a mixed bag.
The coalition.
Who are the dorks of Odin? Explain that group.
I don't know enough about them because I try not to let them live rent free in my head. But Yeah, it's a white supremacist group. I think it's out, like, emerging from out west, but I actually don't know.
Okay.
Odin being some kind of Norse god, I guess. So
He's the
Yeah.
Norse
in
god.
his image.
Yeah.
But they're not in
Thor's god.
Yeah, they are.
No,
they do not resemble any sort of god at
Norse
all.
god. They don't look like the Hemsworth brothers.
That would, yeah. I mean, not that would make it okay, but it would make it better. But not.
Well, I picture the dorks of Odin looking more like the Blues Brothers than Chris and Liam Hemsworth. That's what I see in my mind. A lot of stains, some are teeth, some are here, some are there. Real poor vision. That's what I see when you mention the dorks of Odin. That's fucking amazing that you keep going there. It's unbelievable to me. Because I wouldn't have the energy, right? Like, to me, it's a fight. You go there to document. I can't document anything to save my life. I find that the second I start documenting, that's when I become an advocate, which is a terrible thing for me.
Right? I once got into a fight.
At one of these things?
Yeah. And it was like on Spadina, and like some guy grabbed me to give me a pamphlet. I'm like, you can't touch me. Like, what? So we got into a little bit of an altercation and whatever. But that's the only time that I kind of stepped out of that documenting role. But apart from that, it's just sort of blend in, but fly on the wall. That's the approach I take.
You'd stick out immediately because you're not 100% white or angry. So you would like. You'd be. Yeah,
this is true. I can only,
like
to an extent, fly on the wall. More like, a recognizable.
Anyway. Yeah, Karima Saad is our guest lawyer and advocate. We're talking about her fun this last weekend, covering the Dorks of Odin parade downtown. Big maskless group of wieners that just walk around talking about Norse gods, I guess. But something else happened prior to the weekend, and I'm glad you're here. And the reason why Chris is here is because he lives in Barrie. But Barrie police officer, who I've been informed, his name is Jason Stamp, was caught on camera by bystanders. I'm going to play the video for you. Arresting, can you call this arresting? Arresting a 20-year-old skateboarder for having a bad attitude. Now, before I play you the video, there are a lot of people that'll say, well, we need more context. We need to see more. Well, the reason why we don't see any more is that the body camera program was ended the day before for these police officers. That's a fact. The other reason why we don't see this is because this is the second infraction that Officer Jason Stamp had with a young skateboarder, 20-year-old named Skylar Kent. Now, what you're going to see, and this is all the information, okay? What you're going to see is this 20-year-old skateboarder being arrested physically by Officer Jason Stamp. What you're going to see are people yelling and screaming as Officer Stamp, who is clearly laying on top of this kid, in the middle of the road with a taser in his shoulder, telling him he's going to light him the fuck up if he doesn't put his hands behind his back. But it's physically impossible for him to do it because the officer's laying on top of him. So he can't do it. So there's that. I want you to watch for that. At the end of the video, there's other officers come in. There's a head smashing. In fact, two of them, if you look closely and watch the end of the video. Yeah. And the infraction that this 20-year-old is guilty of, according to the 20-year-old, his name's Skylar Kent, we'll get to his actual words in a minute, was running a red light, jaywalking while he was on a skateboard, which he had previously, just minutes before this altercation, had just been ticketed for. And the reason why we're now at the point where this video gets recorded is, according to eyewitnesses, the officer in question didn't like the attitude of the young man. After he ticketed him, the young man apparently gave him the finger and had a bad attitude, since which the young man has said, yeah, I did, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have given the officer the finger, which you shouldn't. Not a crime, though. So that's what you're watching. You're watching the police officer get all arresty and physical with this young man for giving him the finger after ticketing him for jaywalking. So I'm going to play this for you. And listen, you don't need to tell me what you think about it, because it doesn't really matter. I mean, by and large, generally everybody that has seen this video has a pretty good understanding of what happened. And I've heard from thousands of people over the past couple of days, people generally that aren't real pleased with what Officer Dick Nuts here did. But I'm also really shocked, to be honest with you, that we've had so many people come forward and share information, which I'm not sharing here, about other incidents with this guy. So I want to get a legal take and I want to get like an advocate take. But here's the video of Officer Jason Stamp struggling with Skylar Kent on the ground. That's on TMZ, every worldwide news service, and is being considered by most who have seen this without context to be a very, very, very fucking brutal interaction with a Barrie police officer. So here's the actual video. We'll watch it the whole way through. It's really difficult. It's really graphic, specifically towards the end. So I'm just giving you a heads up.
Okay, dude, stop resisting.
Get the fuck off of me!
If you just stop resisting, it'll go over easier. I know, man, it's scary. Just take it easy.
I'm not even resisting. Get off of me! Get off of me! Get off!
It's okay, man. I'm right here, dude. Just take it easy.
Get off of me! Get off! Get off of me, please! Please! Give me help!
Stop resisting.
Extremely excessive force on a young male who is skateboarding.
Please call Craig Benass, he's a cop too! Please!
It's okay, sweetie. You be
Please!
Stop resisting.
Please call 911!
Stop resisting.
Call 911. Yeah.
Just relax, honey.
I'm not resisting!
Nothing's gonna happen. That's 2 seconds. Put your head behind your fucking back right now. I'll be driving this right now. You want this?
No, sir, let him go,
Put your hands behind
How old are you, man?
Do that when you're
Yo, how old are you?
Put your hands behind
How old are you?
20!
You're 20?
Put your hands behind Right now, or I'm lighting you up.
Just do what he says, man.
Pulling my hand into the ground!
You can't put your hand behind your head?
My hand's behind my back, man!
Roll on your stomach. Roll on your stomach.
What are you doing, man? What the fuck? Don't hurt him! Dude, he's using excessive force! I got it all. This needs to stop! Why?
Get back or you're going in.
I got it all. Just please don't touch me. It's okay, I know.
Nice, huh?
Yeah.
What a cock. Like, I'm going to deal with the merits of what this man did to that young man. But the cries of help, as you can clearly see, I mean, we're not fucking stupid. You can clearly see it is impossible for him to get his hands behind his back. And as he's crying and screaming for his life, the officer continues to threaten him, then escalates by taking out his taser, putting it on his chest, and says, I'm going to light you the fuck up. Then he hits him in the head with it because he doesn't have the nuts to do it because he's a pussy. Then on top of it, and I'm just talking about him. I'm not talking about the police. I'm not talking about the blue line or the blue wall or fucking any of that stuff. What I'm talking about is what that man did to another human being, a defenseless human being. That's what I'm talking about. After that, because he can't, he doesn't have the ability to use reason. He doesn't have the ability to do his job properly. This one police officer does not have the ability to do his job properly. So what he does is he waits until another officer shows up right at the end of the video. That's when he gets his lick in and smashes the poor fucker's head against the ground.
Got it all. This
Then what you'll notice is at the end where he says, get back, to this group of young ladies who are recording it. Not interrupting, not getting in the way, recording it. That's it. He says, if you don't get the fuck back, you're next. I'm taking you in next. Have a listen to that.
Why?
Get back or you're going in. Get back, you're going. What a fucking tough guy. What a brilliant job of police work, that one officer, not the force, not Barrie police, that one cat in a ball cap, absolutely destroying the course of this young man's life because he had a bad attitude. So that's my piece. What did you see here legally, Karima? Because I've had lots of emails and tweets from people saying, he'll get away with it. Not a big deal. Some officers have contacted me, good police officers, saying, dude, that is not police work. But legally, where does this kid stand and where does that cop stand? Because I got an email this morning from Kim Greenwood, who's the chief of police up in Barrie, and she said, because we emailed her to get all the information. I guess that's what you do in journalism, even though we're not journalists. I wanted to make sure that I had this guy's name right. I wanted to make sure I had our information right. And she sent me a nice note back. I think it was a form email that she probably sent a lot of different people. But what she said was, this guy is now on alternative duties. He's off the street while pending an investigation, and they're taking it seriously. So, your thoughts?
So I guess I'll caveat by saying that I'm not actually involved in the case in any formal capacity. So I'm really just speaking to my observations. And I mean, a question that comes up a lot of times in arrests where someone gets hurt is the question of reasonable force. And, police aren't authorized to kind of pull out, like escalate to the highest degree right off the bat. There's
Right.
an expectation instead that you do sort of a minimally infringing on someone's rights, personal autonomy, etc. And I've seen time and again scenarios where an officer clearly has someone within their physical control and will be shouting, stop resisting, even when it's clear that a person is not actually resisting. And that is a pretty, it's not an uncommon practice, I don't think. So
to continue to hurt the person that they're telling to stop resisting. It's almost like they're
then it provides
creating
a shield, right? And it provides
they're creating the narrative there's resistance so they can continue to beat the shit out of someone for no good reason whatsoever. Is that correct?
Right. And as you pointed out, it's not until sort of a backup comes and then that's where you see the head slamming and etc. That raises questions as well as, what sort of balances are officers on each other? Because you would think or hope that another officer coming in would de-escalate the situation, but it actually got more violent. And so what is it that made this guy think that his colleague is going to be okay with this behavior? Because that's clearly what he's thinking. That's his assumption. Otherwise,
you could see it there.
Do this, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is this one cop and this issue, but I think that, it's illustrative of some of the sort of systemic problems that exist in policing and this obvious imbalance in power between citizen and officer and how justified they feel to use force in a scenario where it doesn't appear that there was any real physical threat to the officer.
Can I ask you a question? Is there any crime, and I said this in a post, I'm like, unless you walk in on that guy abusing a baby or an old person, or you catch him red-handed with a knife in his hand, I'm unaware of any offense that requires that kind of response. Is there anything? Is there an infraction any human being can participate in where it warrants that response?
We're in a system where there's a presumption of innocence. So police have a role to investigate. They can lay arrest if they have a reasonable foundation to do so, but they're not the judge, jury, and executioner. So, I mean, to answer your question, I would say no, unless you are catching someone in the midst of committing a violent act, or they are sort of evading arrest and the only option. But even there, I would say that it gets a little bit more blurry, and I don't know that it's justifiable to hurt another person that way. And then we put it in the context of what actually happened here, and this is, you know, a highway traffic offense infraction. Like it does not compute.
Yeah, that's, and you know what, that's a great point, right? No one's made that point yet that I'm aware of publicly. Is it's a fucking ticket for going through a red light, like that, you know. And how many times have I been given a ticket? Trust me, I've gotten hundreds of them. But my friends at ex-copper fix everything for me, so I never really have tickets. But my point is this: how many times have I gotten a ticket from somebody where that officer, like just north OPP between Barrie and the Cottage, I got stopped by a guy who asked me if I knew how fast I was going, and I said, yeah, probably too fast, and I apologize. And he's like, were you trying to get somewhere yesterday? And I go, that doesn't make a lot of congruent sense. And in front of my family, proceeded to undress me verbally. And I just let him do it because I was like, fuck, go ahead and get it out of your system. But my point is that there never seems to be, and we all have had experiences like this in different circles, specifically with police officers. And again, I'm not making this a shitty statement about cops, but it seems to be that cops have the ability to go after people for having bad attitudes after they give them tickets or treat them like shit in the first place.
I'm not going to disagree on that. I mean, they don't actually have that authority, but in practice, they do have very broad discretion, and that's how it can be used. And there's also a lot of leeway to craft a narrative that reflects or sort of supports retroactively a use of force that maybe otherwise shouldn't have happened.
Chris, you do radio up in Barrie, and you've been doing a great job covering this, by the way, yourself and Mel on Big 101 or Big FM. Big, huge. What's the reaction been like since you started covering it, which I think was like Friday morning you started to cover this, because this was on Thursday, I believe, that it happened, and everything kind of went nuts on Friday.
Thursday midday. Yeah. You know, we talked to Kelly. The video you actually showed here, Dean, is like way kinder in terms of the visual. We talked to Kelly, who shot a different angle on the video where you can fully see him smoke that guy's head into the pavement. You can, like, it's even more graphic if you can imagine. And you get a bit more better audio off of that one too. But anyways, Kelly sort of gave us the rundown. And one of the interesting things is the sort of narrative that you've sort of put together here, Dean, about how he was given the ticket and then he came down, and that all seems to ring true according to what Kelly said. And then she said also her husband was working down the street as a contractor, who was at the intersection where he ran the red light on his skateboard. And then it seemed like he had just walked away or skated away. And her husband at the time suspected that it was because he was given a ticket for maybe skateboarding on the sidewalk or running the red light with a skateboard, that he didn't walk away, he skated away. Maybe, but I mean, none of it is justifiable, like you say, but any of those narratives seem to sort of all more or less coincide. The reaction by the public has been pretty, as you can imagine, shocked. But also, I'm seeing a lot of people, unfortunately, who are not surprised. And that was a little shocking to me because, like you're saying, Dean, we don't want to poo-poo on the police, and we don't want to, go after an organization that does so much.
You don't want to make generalizations that Sue are good people. You just don't.
And all of my interactions with Barrie Police to this point have been excellent. I've always thought of them as a very community-oriented, community-minded police service since I started on the air in Barrie. But yeah, this was a different story. And there seems to be comments. And if you look at some of the videos that originated at Barrie, now obviously a lot of them have gone national or international, like you said, on TMZ. But if you look at some of the early comments that are coming in from people who live in Barrie, they start naming other police officers on Barrie Police who have had history and have had similar sort of accusations or incidences in the past, right? And I was surprised to see that, because that is not something that I'd heard. Now, mind you, I've only been on the air in Barrie for about 4 years. 4.5 years. So, I don't know the full history of the community, and some of these names were foreign to me, but it seemed as though there was a vibe that this has happened before. And then secondly, also something that Kelly said in our interview, when she lives downtown in Barrie, and downtown Barrie, even before the pandemic, is having some struggles. I remember reporting on like a machete attack in downtown Barrie. And
yeah, downtown Barrie is like it's a really, really nice trailer park.
Listen, there's a wonderful waterfront and some beautiful sculptures, Dean. There is.
Yeah, but down by the waterfront. And listen, I love the town of Barrie. I really do. I've been through it 100 times on the way up north. I've stopped there dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I've been to the waterfront, beautiful area. But I'm saying, generally speaking, that downtown area by the waterfront, off of Dunlop and in that area, which is a beautiful historic area of town, it fills up with different people from time to time. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, it does. It has some characters for sure. And I could, the machete attack is one of a billion examples I could give you that I've
no one attacks anybody with a machete anymore either.
Yeah, I know. It is kind of old school, right? Like that is.
It's like when there was a crossbow attack in Toronto like a few years ago. I'm like, man, that is old school. Anyway, go ahead, continue.
Anyways, one of the things that Kelly alluded to is she's a citizen of downtown Barrie, and there's a great community of people who live down there. A lot of artisans and arts people live down there, and she'd made mention that there was a concern. This is not the first time that there's been a concern by the community downtown over how some of the criminals or some of the vagrants or some of the people, the lingerers of downtown, have been treated by the police. She'd made mention and made a comment on that. And it's a community concern, she'd said. So it sounds like there, obviously, there's problems in downtown Barrie. But obviously there's also maybe a problem with how the Barrie police are handling it now. And all this is anecdotal, of course, but that's what I'm hearing. And there seems to be some of those comments, those early comments on those videos that are from people from Barrie before it spread across the country and people are chiming in from, everywhere. Some of those early comments sort of corroborate sort of her take on it as well. So, I've kind of piecemealed together sort of the community sort of vibe through those discussions, right?
Yeah, and you know what? It's amazing because even in my reply I got back from Barrie Police Chief Kim Greenwood, she wouldn't give out the name or say the officer's name. Not a word. And then that leads to something that you talked about, and I think something that is a problem, which is the systemic nature with which this seems to happen in certain police circles. You know what I mean, Karima?
Yeah, I mean, there's an analogy, right? The few bad apples. We have a few bad cops who are a few bad apples. But of course, a bad apple can ruin the whole bunch. And historically, police do not have a great track record of policing their own. So, how often does the Special Investigations Unit come up with an outcome that finds wrongdoing on their own membership's part? Not that often. And I mean, I think that people are waking up to the fact that, we are exposed to a lot of pro-police propaganda, whether it's in film, in television, sort of the narratives that we hear. And that doesn't always correspond to experiences that people have with police. And in questioning sort of the contributions to public safety, like whose safety at whose expense, because even if we're talking about sort of people lingering in downtown Barrie, those are also community members, right? Like they may not be homeowners, they may not be sort of having the traditional hallmarks of what we consider sort of a good citizen, although that itself is like a separate thing to unpack. But like we're all community members, so who is benefiting and who is being harmed? And what's really jarring about this video is you have like a young white guy who's on a skateboard, and I think a lot of people can sort of see themselves in that. And
thank God he was white.
Pardon me? Yeah, I said young white guy.
Thank God he was white.
Well,
Yeah, but
I mean,
thank God he was white. I mean,
yeah, it could have been a very a more dramatic outcome, and that's why you'll have other segments of the population who aren't surprised by this, because that is in fact the typical experience with police.
Yeah, the Black Lives Matter Simcoe, Facebook group, I believe, they had a similar sentiment. Be like, okay, well, maybe this is going to open up eyes, or sort of, I think, comments. So, yeah, I think that, yeah, the fact that he's just a 20-year-old white dude, that is unfortunately is a wake up call to some people. Yeah.
Yeah, it was for me. I mean, I'm a pretty wide open individual. Like I like to judge things based on their merits, and I don't like springboarding into wondering what's wrong with everybody, or one of the things, and it bothers me, that I saw a lot on Twitter over the past few days because of us just talking about this issue, was the blind support for this officer by specifically wives of other officers. Like it was funny because only one cop that I could find, and only one police officer had come out in support of this guy, and it was his name was like Frank Ferrari or something like that. I'd be able to go and find it, but it was like every tweet of his was about how Justin Trudeau sucks.
Yeah,
I went through his tweets. Justin Trudeau sucks. The police unions rule. They're taking away our freedom to do our jobs. When really what I think that meant was we enjoy beating the shit out of people indiscriminately. And we've enjoyed the comfort of being able to do that for a long time. And what upsets us, and they couch it like this, some of them anyway, this guy did, couched it like this, where he's like, how dare you take away our ability to freely police? But all I read was, we love doing this. We want to continue doing this. Don't you dare stand up for common sense. Does that, am I wrong in that? Because that was the vibe I got, Karima. That was the vibe I got from every single person that was like, hey man, he's just doing his job. I'm like, fuck, that is not policing.
And if that is his job, then we need to maybe reimagine what that job description looks like. Because if, in fact, he was doing his job and he was within the confines of what he's allowed to do, that's sort of fucked up.
Yeah, something has led him to believe that he can act that way, especially when the cameras are on him. I mean, it was in the middle of broad daylight on a downtown intersection. He knew, he had to have known that there would be cameras on him, and he still behaved that way. So there must be something that makes him think that was okay. There must have been something along the line of his education or his training or something that failed him, that failed to identify him as someone that maybe wasn't a good candidate for the job.
Or the flip side, he was considered a great candidate for a job and is in that position, and he's not the only one, right? So again, like
how deep does it go?
At a time, and especially in the pandemic, right, when like people are really like hurting materially for all sorts of things, is this a smart use of resources to build stronger communities?
Also, no mask. Did you notice that? Dude didn't have a mask on. Pretty sure you're supposed to be wearing a fucking mask.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, not one mask. Dude, like, it's not bad enough he's beating the shit out of this kid. He's trying to give him COVID. Like, that's not 6 feet. He's dry humping him into submission, for Christ's sake. Here's the really great part. What's that?
Is that 2 assault counts then if he did give him COVID, Karima?
I don't know. We did a post today because we learned on
that. I don't know. But
we learned a lot about the dude. So this is the email I got from Kimberly Greenwood. I just cut and pasted a copy of it, where she says, please know Barrie Police Services quickly made aware of the videos posted on social media. One of our officers, blah, 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 charged with cause of disturbance, assault, and attempt. I love how they slipped in all his charges, right? Like that was all those charges for laying there getting beat. So I already don't like the email. I've requested the Ontario Provincial Police to conduct an independent investigation into the events leading to the arrest. I acknowledge the public's concerns being expressed based on the limited availability of the information and time, which I also don't like. What she's saying is, oh, what you don't know is there's probably more. Well, fuck, show it. Show it if there's more. Like, don't let us run this guy out of town. If you were wrong, show it. And then we'll come into the middle and we'll all fucking learn together. But there's more protectionism in this email, which is the problem. Then she goes on to say the Barrie Police Service holds its members to the highest level of accountability, public and trust, confidence. Our members of the utmost importance. It doesn't seem that way. Here's the really fucking funny part. I got a ton of these. I posted only the ones that I could actually prove. Only the ones I knew and sourced over the weekend, and like, yeah, okay, that's true. We'll go with that. I got this, left the guy's name and his pictures out, but this was forwarded to us by our socials guy from Facebook. His name's Joe. Joe sent this to me from one of our users. If you really want to throw Jason Stamp in the old ringer, did you know that he holds a position in the community services unit where he's responsible for 8 schools in Barrie? If he does this to someone who he would do at a high school, I bet a lot of parents would put up a stink if they found out this guy was at their school. 8 different schools, community. And you know what he did at those schools? He was the anti-bullying resource officer.
No fucking way.
It gets better, huh? It gets better. And then Rob Gill.
Is this for real?
This is for real. He's a school resource officer at Bear Creek Secondary, Allendale Heights, W.C. Little, Ferndale
those
Woods.
are real high schools.
Yeah. Romeo Dallaire, Trillium Woods, Holly Meadows, Ardagh Bluffs. This is actually, that's his name. This is from their site. I'm not making this shit up. And that's how we confirm stuff. And then we go, yeah, I can put that in there.
You know, that kid is 20 years old. How far out of high school was he? A year and a half?
Maybe, max. Yeah. This is a guy named Rob Gill, who's a terrific journalist, freelance journalist from out west. Sent this to me. He's like, hey, man, Stamp had his pay docked 10% in 2019. You know why they dock pay? I do. I'm not going to come out and say what it was, but they don't dock pay from guys doing a fucking incredible job. I'll tell you that. Then I started to get these. These are just like, you know, information that you need. Like, it's not, skateboarding's not allowed on the sidewalk. He was on the street. The street's under construction, where he was, his head was smashed on a 2-inch lip for the asphalt that's supposed to be laid. So little skateboarding is legal on the sidewalks. Body camera pilot program ended the day before this incident.
You think he knew
a lot of stuff? What's that?
You think he knew that? Do you think that was why he acted that way? Because he thought that maybe body cameras were off?
Can't say. This is from someone else. I've got his email address in case he sewers us, and checked with him, and he says 100% true, and he can actually probably get his school record. I had a terrible experience with this officer in my high school a few years ago, power tripper, and ended up putting something false on my record. I had no clue about till I was stopped by Barrie police a few weeks after, and they asked me if I had drugs in the vehicle. Turns out this guy out on my record, I was involved in a drug deal, which was never the case. Another time I saw the officer make a kid who happened to be of color, who just pushed open a door to the school to come back and reopen the door properly, which makes sense to me. Like, you know, man, if that was this guy's experience, no, but like, he sent that kid away after ticketing him, the kid who he beat the shit out of. He sent him away and then chased him down with his car to physically arrest him for giving him the finger. So he's got, like, you know, you talk about why people do this. It seems to me there's a couple of things at play here. One, he's incredibly unhinged in his personal life. There's some shit going on he can't control, and this is how it comes out. So he needs to go get some help. That's the first thing I see. The second thing I see is a pattern of behavior here that's been going on for quite some time. And the third thing I see is a school resource officer for probably the past several years, from what I can understand. And I have a lot of police officer friends who are worth their badge, unlike my opinion, unlike this man. Who said that school resource people, they go there to, like, get a little bit of experience, or if they're there for a long period of time, they're there because they have a tough time doing the job on the road. So, you know, draw all the conclusions you want out of this. This is a police officer who, in my estimation, isn't mentally, emotionally, intellectually equipped to be able to handle the day-to-day rigors of that job at this moment in time. Am I wrong?
That's a lot of journalism, Dean. You said you're just you're not a journalist. I don't know. That's a lot of digging, man.
I'm just a blog. No, these are things that people send me. That's the crazy part of this business. It's called crowdsourced journalism.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I just feel like a piece of shit now because I'm the guy on the air in Barrie. I should be
Yeah.
doing that legwork.
I got more time. I got more time to do this. Does this kid have any legal recourse, Karima? Like,
I mean, it sounds like he's going to have to deal with charges, which, you know, however those get handled or disposed of, you know, possibly he'll have a lawyer who makes a charter argument that there was excessive force and request a stay, depending on, you know, the scenario. Like, I can't speak to that, but like civilly, it's really hard to sue police. We have a lot of legislation that makes it tricky to actually get anything sort of tangible out of those cases.
Like
we're
what?
not as bad as or it's not as dramatic as it is in the United States. But you know, we don't really have a system that's equipped to compensate for or even acknowledge or recognize these harms. So you know, it is a bleak outlook, but I don't know. I'm not a civil litigator, so I'm not sure kind of if he stands to gain anything in that sense.
But as a lawyer, did the clicker keep going off in your head? Was okay, you can sue him for that, sue him for that, sue him for that, get him for that. Like,
it was a really
no?
violent takedown, and like, you know, is there a concussion that comes from that? Like, so it'll also turn a little bit on damages, right? Apart from the inherent effect that it has on one's dignity, you know, there might be physical damage that was sustained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I didn't. What I heard, that child is fucking 20. And you know what? Let's be honest here. Let's not gloss over the fact only idiots give cops the finger, right? Like, I'm not afraid of the police, but I would never give them the finger. Like, it's the same reason why I don't act like a tool when I get on a flight. I don't want to be thrown off. I don't want to be chucked in jail in a strange country. I want to say yes, sir, no, sir, as much as I can. And when I get tickets, or when I used to get tickets a lot, I would always say the same thing. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I wouldn't talk back. I wouldn't be a shithead about it, because I'm really a big fan of self-preservation, right? So there's a disconnect here with this Skylar Kent kid as well. I'm not letting him off the hook for acting like a tool, but it didn't warrant that.
There was like two opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of authority issues, right? Like someone who really seemed to show little regard to the authority, even though otherwise the more prudent course of action would be to suck it up and go about your day. And someone who really couldn't seem to handle his authority being challenged. And so that was just a very unfortunate pairing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sort of like wine and fried chicken.
That's an understatement right there. Wow.
You know what this wine would go with? Grilled cheese.
Nice cab and craft dinner.
Yeah. A Pinot. Goes great with an Oreo.
Goldfish.
That's what it, because you know what? What's that? Goldfish and what?
It's goldfish and rosé.
Which goldfish? Like the cheese ones? Because those kind of might actually work. Or you talk about the ones that taste like cupcakes.
That's the one I was thinking was the cheese ones.
Yeah. I get a weakness for the birthday cake of Golden Grams or the Grams.
Oh gosh, I thought you meant real goldfish when you were asking for the distinction. I didn't know that there were sweet goldfish.
Oh yeah, did you not know that? Like the little cheese goldfish, little snack packs you give like little kids and people who might injure themselves with food. You give them goldfish, but there's different flavors of goldfish. There's get the cheese.
It was just the cheesy ones.
Well, no, that you got the zesty cheese, Karima, and then you got chocolate. Now you got birthday cake. Birthday cake is like I can't stop. Once I have one, I'm having the whole bag, so I don't do it.
I learn something new every day.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We're here to educate. We're here to educate. That's what we're here for. So what happens now? Like as you know, from a legal perspective, what happens with this kid? He's got charges. Do you see a path where those charges get dropped and, you know, this cop gets censured? Can this cop get fired? Like what happens now?
So as far as the charges, like the normal sort of process would be that, you know, there's going to be a first appearance in court. There will be a crown who's assigned to the case. There'll be an opportunity for that crown to review whether it's in the public's interest to proceed with these charges, whether there's a reasonable prospect of conviction. and, you know, depending on those assessments, you know, it may escalate to the point of involving a judge, either, you know, to resolve the matter, or if it's going to proceed to trial. And if it goes to trial, you can probably expect that the officer would be called to testify, to sort of account for his actions.
Right.
So that's the trajectory that you know, attaches to any sort of charge that gets laid, and I don't see why this situation would be any different. But as far as what happens to the officer, I mean, the email that you showed us, you know, it speaks to a high level of accountability, but you know, it's certainly not transparent, because we don't know what, if anything, is happening, and we can surmise based on other incidences where there's an officer who is very handsy, let's say, or, you know, has a track record. I don't know if that's exactly the adjective, but
officer stamp is all hands.
you know,
not a big deal.
But like, what actually happens in practice, and how often does the Special Investigations Unit, like, or an internal investigation, like, what's going to come of it? There's a very strong police union that may actually, and you know, in my view, can work to stymie real progress in dealing with and uprooting people who are not contributing to a healthy environment, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, my cynical side says probably not much happens. Having said that, there's obviously attention that's put on the situation, and that can prompt sort of action, right? So it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I wonder, you know, I'm a big were you going to say something, Chris? Sorry.
Yeah, okay, man. No, I was going to say, also, I don't know if this is telling or not, but the chief of police asked outside police services to conduct the investigation. Is that normal, or is that telling?
I mean, it could be a way to sort of get ahead of criticism that, you know, they just investigated themselves and everything was fine. I'm not sure how common that is. It's certainly not unprecedented. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, right, Chris? Yeah. I get your question, which is, you know, does it look as accountable? Will it be as accountable as it looks? Yeah. Having the OPP come in to investigate, you know, a Barrie police matter. And I don't know. I mean, I think the brotherhood runs pretty deep, brother and sisterhood, pardon me, to our fine men and women in uniform. And may I say this, I have a long, very healthy relationship with York Regional Police. I have very, very close friends that are everyone from a constable to a staff sergeant to a captain. They have been instrumental in a few different issues that I've had with my son in a very positive way, my eldest. And so I've got a great relationship with police officers here. Now, the police officers I have a great relationship know that these things happen and they are a problem, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have a great relationship with those people, because, you know, the silence that happens after something like this, you've got an outcry from human beings who have had experiences. You've got an outcry from this kid and his family and his sister. You've got an outcry on behalf of public decency and policing and protecting and serving. These are good outcries. These are good things to have happening right now, because it's still top of mind. But at the same time, I guess my question would be, you know, is this as systemic as we think it is, or are there? Because I find it to be incredibly easy to fix a problem in general life. And I said this in a post. What stops Barrie police from saying, you know what, we need about 15 town halls? That's what we need. And if we don't get these town halls, we're not going to get to the bottom of the issue. What stops Barrie Police Service from doing that? Karima.
Earlier, you spoke to sort of your own instinct for self-preservation. So I think if we consider an institution as also having a tendency to want to self-preserve, there's probably a reluctance to engage in any process that may undermine either the scope of what they do, the powers that they have, how they conduct themselves. You know, and I think it's generally across sort of it's human nature that people don't like giving up power. So that would be my speculation.
The mayor has come out and said that he wants to get to the bottom of this. It's personally important to him to get to the bottom of this, Mayor Jeff. And I was happy to see that, but for me, it felt like it was a bit of a, again, like it just means like it's a bit of lip service, I guess, because I don't feel like even the mayor of Barrie has the sort of investigative or power to really make change on this. I think it needs to go up higher than him. But then once you go higher than the mayor, you're getting into partisan politics. You know, I find that you start having the real people who could affect change there. Then it becomes having the political will to make that change. And I don't know whether we can. I just don't know whether, you know, that fight it would be ugly, you know, in a political sense.
It's gross. You know what? The whole thing's gross. And if you're a skateboarder thinking of giving a cop the finger, I'd highly suggest you don't. That's where you start. You know, that's a bad decision. What happened after that was all bad decisions. You know what I mean? On behalf of everybody, wrong cop, wrong day, wrong time. Who knows what he's dealing with? Not that it's a pass. Who knows what went into that kid's shitty attitude? Not that that's a pass. But what, you know, I think the one thing we come back to, Karima, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Is it doesn't matter what kind of position of authority you have. It doesn't matter how you've been trained. It doesn't matter if you're a cop or a Secret Service agent or CSIS. It is not human to do that to another individual.
I mean, you were right. I think it's gross. And that's probably an accurate sort of sum of all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate your input today too. Stay away from downtown for a bit too, if you can. Stop going to those weird anti-masker parades.
For posterity.
Lastly, I'll say this. I passed a cop one time when I was 20 and I got pulled over and ticketed for that. And I'm just thank God the cop was a nice guy and we had a good laugh about it. He was like, didn't notice that I was a cop, eh? I was like, nope, I did not. So I have a good memory of getting ticketed as a 20-year-old.
Yeah, but we don't have, we don't have like any great, like we never tell great cop stories. We should because I have 20 of them, right? I've got a couple of bad ones, but I choose not to sewer the entire police service and the profession with two terrible experiences that I have with police officers. I tend to be thankful for the good men and women in uniform that, put a fucking bulletproof vest on before they go to work every day. I'm too much of a wussy to do that, but it does attract and seem to attract some pretty shitty characters, and we'll leave it at that today. Karima Saad, thank you very much. She is a lawyer. You can get her at Karima Rules if you've got any landlord-tenant disputes you want figured out, if you got a couple of issues you want to talk about. She's also the president, you'll like this, Chris, of Normal Canada.
Director, but yes.
Oh, sorry. What's the difference?
I don't know. President is a different person, Jack Lloyd, but we're like a pretty flat structured, even though there's hierarchical positions. We're copacetic.
What's the most powerful person? You're the most powerful person there if you're the executive director.
I'm gonna go ahead and say yes.
Yeah, no girl.
Boss. Where's the pajama pants, everybody?
That's right. Yeah. Hasn't gotten out of her PJs, and she's affected change all day long. Thanks to our friend Karima Saad at Karima Rules on Twitter as well. Thanks to Chris Bodden from the Big Chris Live podcast, and of course, Big 101 in Barrie, Ontario, where all this stuff happened. Really appreciate both of you guys joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you both soon. There you go. That's it for the podcast today. Have a great day, everybody. And thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, none of this would be possible without our sponsors and our friends, including my buddy Ed at Ed's Fine Imports. Buy 3 pairs of Gitch, get the 3rd pair for free. They're called Gitch. They're boxer briefs. They got the pouch in the front. Maybe the best thing you'll ever put on your skivvies. So go to edsfineimports.com today. Check it out and get yourself some new pants. Get yourself some new Gitch. He'll send you the Gitch and the pants. He's like Mr. Super Contactless. He's like me, only worse. He's a little anal about the things that he touches and what he lets touch you. That's why he's come up with his own branded underwear, Gitch. Go to edsfineimports.com. Gitch3 is your promo code. You get 4 for the price of 3. Our friends at Domination dominate with content in minutes. You can do 72 pieces of content in literally 5 minutes. So you upload your entire podcast or whatever it is you're working on, and the AI does it all for you. AI, man. People are all upset by AI. I'm totally cool with AI. If it saves me like 10 hours in editing, in production and all that other stuff. So go to dmntn.com today and check it out. Our friends at Envision Digital Solutions. If you have any back end or front end stuff that you need done, go to envision.co. Do it today. And our friends at Blue Microphones, the official microphone of DeanBlundell.com. At Blue Microphones on Twitter. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. That's it. That's all there is. I got nothing else to talk about. I got nothing else to talk to you about or anybody else.